joined by Pat Smith, WJOX in Birmingham, three-man front. He joins us on 365 Sports. I did get, by the way, I got SEC Mike to text me back, Pat, but he just couldn't do it today. And we kind of know why, because of what's happening at Tennessee. What has been the reaction? You've got that heart and soul mothership in the middle of the SEC. What's been the reaction in the SEC country?
Well, it's funny because Alabama and Auburn fans, they love it. They love seeing another SEC program potentially burning to the ground with a starting quarterback. But then they pause for a second and they go, now, hold on a second. This could happen to us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it almost happened to Alabama last year. You think about it, Jalen Milroe, he takes his team to the college football playoff. They lose to Michigan in the Rose Bowl. And then all of a sudden there's a new head coach at Alabama. And then it all says and goes, you know, he's wanting a lot of money to stay at Alabama instead of going into the transfer portal. And then Alabama paid him whatever was necessary for him to try to hold that roster together. And so now you've got Nico, all sorts of signs coming out of Tennessee this afternoon that nobody's heard from him. It's been all quiet. So the question is he going to show up tomorrow for the spring game, the orange and white game tomorrow at Neyland Stadium?
So this was always probably going to be the SEC, the testing ground for contract holdouts. I think it would be maybe different if this was happening a month ago or 6 weeks ago, as opposed to days before spring is over and the spring portal, which is much shorter, is open and available for people to get their commits.
Yes, no, you're absolutely right. And think about this. If you think back when Nico originally signed his deal with Tennessee, or I should say the NIL cooperative at Tennessee, remember the NCAA was coming after them. And you remember what happened? The AG in the state of Tennessee, he sues the NCAA. And then that started a series of events where attorney generals from the states of Virginia and Tennessee and others said, okay, well, we're going to come after the NCAA as well. So once again, the NCAA loses in court because all those district and circuit court judges, they sided obviously with the player. So it's interesting because, you know, that was the canary in the coal mine, the Nico signing out of high school, the 3-year deal worth $8 to $9 million. We were all shocked by it. But basically Tennessee says, we're going all in and screw the NCAA. We're going to do what we want to do. You're not for the player. We are. We're moving forward. And so now it's that individual who was the test case in this whole situation with NIL could be bringing it down even further by him potentially walking out of an NIL deal that he had with the University of Tennessee. It is extremely fascinating, and the chaos just continues to reign before we get the House settlement.
And Pat, not really much in terms of options for Tennessee. I mean, to Paul's point a little bit, but on the roster, just 2 freshman quarterbacks, right? So, I mean, you talk about from a business perspective, brilliant move because you have literally all the leverage in the world, but at the same time, like how much bad business and burning bridges are you maybe creating at the same time? But yeah, I mean, they're in quite the pickle, aren't they? I mean, they've really got to be kind of holding their breath ahead of tomorrow.
Check out my go-to polo from Flag and Anthem. It's everything you want in a golf polo, but you can wear it at a dinner, to a barbecue, whatever your plans are. It's extremely soft, super comfortable. Check it out, flagandanthem.com.
Yes, and all indications from the people that I talked to up in Knoxville and Nashville, they tell me that Tennessee, as a university, as an athletic department, now Josh Heupel might feel a different way because he's the head coach, but I've been told that Tennessee's hell-bent, that Tennessee is not willing to go the $4+ million. That's the rumor. That's what people are saying that the Nico camp is wanting in regards to his services. Keep this in mind, guys. I know you're in Big 12 country, but you're as smart as anybody when it comes to college football rules and regulations. In the Southeastern Conference, they have a policy that you cannot transfer in the spring portal and go to another SEC school and play football in the fall. So if Nico does decide to leave, he can't go to an SEC school and play immediately. Most people think that he'll go to the West Coast, but then where does Tennessee go to get that quarterback? They would have to go outside the 16 schools in the Southeastern Conference to try to find somebody to fill that quarterback room. So that's another fascinating aspect to this, is because the SEC will not allow you to transfer. You can in the winter window, you can leave and you can move to another SEC school, no problem. But because of this window opening up on Wednesday, you cannot transfer within the conference and be eligible immediately. So that's another problem that Tennessee is looking at right now.
And that's an SEC rule. So can
Correct.
that be challenged by anybody like everything else when it comes to players being held back?
Well, I guess you can. I mean, we live in such a litigious society now. If you're a player, so I think anything is questionable. But I will say this: the 16-member institutions of the SEC, they're pretty strong in regards to their policies and regulations. And listen, and nobody in the conference. Let's just say he goes in the portal. Now all of a sudden, you're not going to have Arkansas that is going to go and try to question Greg Sankey or the other 14 schools in the conference. That's just not going to happen. But that's one area that the SEC firmed up really early in this chaos, was that we're not going to allow this to happen within that spring window. If you're a football player, winter window, you can go move within the conference. That's no problem. But this time, Nico is going to have to go somewhere else outside the SEC.
Pat, yeah, he's going to have to go outside the SEC. Do you think my guess would be like somebody like USC is the one maybe pushing this a little bit. Do you think that that could include like finding the best D2 guy that's in the portal, or they've got to get somebody who can get them to probably about 9-3 so the fans don't get really mad at them. But I would think that the court of public opinion is on Josh Heupel and staff's side for at least a year.
Yeah, no, listen, based on the people that I talk to and I trust big time up there in East Tennessee, they are saying every single moment that goes by and nobody hears from Nico that he is losing the battle of public opinion. And we all know what happens when that takes place. It is going to be very difficult for him. We had a caller calling our show today and they said, okay, hey, what if Nico is on the sideline of the spring game, but he's in street clothes? And I said, I don't think Tennessee would even allow him to do that. Now we're getting, it's NFL light. We've known this for years, but now you're getting holdouts for a spring game and trying to hold people over a barrel after you have a handshake agreement or an agreement with an NIL. I think Tennessee fans and other SEC fans, if it happened to Alabama, I could tell you, if it happened to Alabama last year with Jalen Milroe, because we asked the hypothetical question, we said, if this was Jalen Milroe last year, what would you do as an Alabama fan? And every single one of us, about 95% of the people that called in and texted us and tweeted at us, they told us we would tell him to pound sand and to leave. Like, we don't want that. And that's what you're hearing from Tennessee people this afternoon. Keep this in mind, guys. Last night, he was at his offensive coordinator's house having dinner with the rest of the offensive guys. And then all of a sudden, he does not show up to practice this morning, and nobody's heard from him as of about 30 minutes ago. So what kind of message are you sending to your teammates? What message are you sending to that very loyal fan base that fills that stadium over 100,000, no matter who you're playing? They help pay his NIL. So this is a bad look for him, bad look for the family. I think they have miscalculated this. Now, they can still consummate a deal, and he can still be the quarterback at Tennessee. He's a good quarterback. He's not a Heisman Trophy finishing quarterback, but he's a good quarterback who got him to the college football playoff. But this is just a fascinating test of what's going to happen moving forward.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I still think as much as everybody's freaking out, there's a great chance that tomorrow, like pro wrestling, the theme music hits, and here he comes running out.
Yes.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah. I mean, you just kind of touched on it, but I mean, you saw a lot more of him than probably anybody in this room did. We watched a lot of college football, but you are geared more towards watching the SEC. So you kind of said it there, but how good of a player do you think he is at this point? And just kind of what did you make of the season that he had last year and thus carrying that importance into 2025 as well?
Well, it was interesting because when he went up against teams in the SEC that had more than decent defenses, he struggled at times. He threw for 2,600 yards, 19 touchdowns. I think he threw 5 interceptions last year. He was better than a managing quarterback. He didn't, he's a big, tall, lanky guy. So, he's not running the football like a Jackson Dart or what Jalen Milroe did, or even Jackson Arnold when he was at Oklahoma before he transferred to Auburn. So he's not a running quarterback. I think what you saw with the Tennessee offense last year is they just did not have the wide receiver core that Heupel had in the years past. So he really couldn't run the type of offense that he had. And listen, we all saw just the absolute embarrassing performance that he and the rest of the Tennessee Vols had in the college football playoff. It embarrassed the rest of us in the Southeastern Conference, that performance in Columbus. So he is a good quarterback. I think that if he comes back to Tennessee, he's going to be one of the upper echelon guys in the conference. But, I'm definitely not buying any tickets for the Heisman Trophy candidacy if I'm a Tennessee ball fan.
What a nugget you had a minute ago about that he was at his offensive coordinator's house with other players and teammates, and then this. Now that we were wondering, because you wonder, how do teammates react to this? There's going to be some that are really tight with him. I mean, he's been the quarterback, and then again, you could eventually, lose real estate, so to speak, when it comes to leadership. That's a great nugget.
And not to mention the fact, what's going to happen, guys, when you've got everybody else in that locker room that is going to take this situation and however it develops one way or another, that they're not going to use that for their own good moving forward, that they're not going to walk into their position coach, a wide receiver, and say, hey, coach, guess what? I had a great year and I've been tearing it up this spring and you need me this fall. Guess what? I want to renegotiate my deal. You did Nico. Why can't you do me?
Absolutely.
Everybody's for themselves now. And this is a very bad precedent. And to see how this works out, listen, we're all for chaos because I'm all for a great show on Monday. So let's go. Let's make it happen.
But Pat, you do bring up a good point. Like, there's 100+ guys in that locker room, all of whom will respond in their own way to this. And the best way to make sure your team is competing for conference titles, playoffs, and national titles is to have everybody walking in a straight line. Well, if he leaves or if they give him what he wants money-wise, whatever happens, that's probably fractured for good, but we just won't know the severity until the season starts.
Yeah, no, and listen, maybe the family believed that they had him over a barrel because with spring ending, with the very short window, as you mentioned before, that's about to open up on Wednesday, that Tennessee was going to have nothing, but they had to cut a deal with it, had to. And so maybe they just miscalculated this, but again, it can lead to a fractured locker room. It could lead to, obviously, a problem with your position coach and your head coach, who's an offensive-minded guy. This has just got disaster written all over it. So I'm going to be tuned in. And I mean, I know the rest of us don't really tune into spring games anymore, but I'm definitely going to be paying attention to what's going on in Knoxville tomorrow to see if he shows up.
Pat, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yet another angle of covering today in college athletics, college football in this case with Tennessee. Pat Smith, co-host of Three-Man Front, also from the mothership at WJOX in Birmingham, Alabama.